So we're going to print out the URL variables, and we haven't done that yet. And so this exercise is kind of designed to go and look at just the documentation and how's all this put together, and that kind of a deal. So if we're at net HTTP and we have the request, and I'm saying, hey, I want to see URL variables and what you can get, we have a field. The request is a struct, and we have a field in there, URL, and it's of type URL from package URL. And so that type right here is all this stuff, right? All those fields. And so I'm kind of curious, what happens when I see those fields? So many of them are strings, right? So I could copy those, and then if I wanted to, I'm sure there's an easy way to do this with an editor. If anybody knows how, let me know, because when I bring them in here, I guess that's pretty good. Here's how I'm going to do it. Oops. Wow. How do you like those apples? Right? So those are all the things that are there. And user info is some sort of pointer thing, so get rid of that. And then the rest are either a string or a bool, which I could print, including scheme. So now I'm just going to copy those. And I need to pass in my URL. And so that's going to be just request.url. Right? That's a field in my request. And then I have to say what type it is. And so if this syntax right here for a struct, I'm just saying here's a struct. You know, it's like I've defined a struct, and then I've immediately instantiated a value of that struct. Okay? So if you remember when we have structs, Golang playground, let's say I want to create a type person, and it's a struct, and so that has, not having code completion, so weird. That has a field fname, it has a field lname, right? And then we could do composition where we have type secret agent, and that's a struct. And we can embed person, and then we could have license to kill, and that's a bool, right? And then we could create, you know, a value p1 colon equals struct colon equals person, and we could say miss. I don't know, what would her name be? Janice? Moneypenny? And then we could print line P1, and we could do P2 or SA2, SA, and we could say that this is a secret agent, and the first field is person, and it's James Fawn, and then true format, and we could print line SA1, SA2. Okay, so the point being, we created a struct here, and then we created a value of that. Well, we could also just say, and I'm about to lose my stuff in copy memory, so let me just go put this over here. We could also just say, well, let's get rid of secret agent. Let's get rid of secret agent. We could also just say, take all that and put it right there. You see that? So instead of doing it like this, right, where person, remember composite literal is the type, braces, and then whatever you put in the braces, right? Yeah. Well, here we have type person. What is person? You see that substitution? Want to see it again? So what is, now I'm person, that's weird. What is person? Person is a struct with those fields. So instead of putting person there, I could just put that right there. Because here's the type. There's the composite literal. Composite literal is the type, and then curly braces and the values. Okay? Follow. So I just wanted to illustrate that.
So just instead of defining the struct beforehand, you define it inside of the function.
Yeah, because I think this way is, well, that totally screws up my copy paste. That's so weird. I think this way is much more readable. I create a type. We can create that composite literal, this type, in here. I think that's more readable if we're just getting into it than this.
And if you create the struct inside of the function, does that mean that it can only be accessed?
Yeah, it's like an anonymous type. I haven't said your type person, right? This is the type right here. It's a struct with these fields.
So that limits its use.
But I'm only using it there once. So like right here, I'm only using this here once, right? Method, submissions, method, form. And then the last field in that struct is going to be URL, and that's a pointer to your type URL from package URL. And why is it all that? Because that's the documentation right here. It says it's a pointer to your type URL from package URL. What?
Can you just go back? I just want to get to read that.
So here's a solution to the challenge we were just doing in class. You could find it here under 0temp. But you know, the point of this exercise is to understand the standard docs. And we started out talking about type handler, which is an interface. And then after type handler, we said, hey, this is important because listen and serve. Listen and serve use it. I don't know where listen and serve is. I thought it'd be alphabetical, but it's all the way up at the top. Listen and serve use it, right? Takes a handler. And then we said, well, you know, that handler thing has a response right and a request. Well, let's understand the request. Right? And the request is a struct, and we printed out the method. And then we also saw how if we use parse form, we could use form or post form. In parse form, you have to use to get these to operate. And Gentry is like, well, you could even use form value and pass in the key. And you're like, absolutely right, right? Because attached to the request is form value, and you can just pass in a key and get out. So remember, I got those back by a variable name, right? And so like my variable name in my form was fname, so I could pass in the key fname and it'd give me back that value. And it runs parse form for you. So that's just form value. But then I was like, okay, so can you print out something from this, right? We have another field here in the struct, which is the request URL. And can we print out, what is that? It's a pointer to type URL from package URL. And this is, you know, different fields, most of which are strings. So I say, can we print these things out? And so to do that, and the point is just kind of like, look at how we use the documentation. To do that, we need to change what data we're passing in. And so I'm going to update my struct to take in a URL. Right, I'm going to have a new field, and it'll be this type pointer to URL from package URL. And I'm going to pass that data in. From the request, I'm going to pass in the URL, which is this type. And so over in my template now, I need to have these fields print out. And so I could just do this anywhere, but I think I'll do it right here. Bow. Bow. Just formatting. And so I'll say, you know, this if statement, if.url says, hey, if there's data there, then we're going to run what's between here. And what we could run is we could print out those values. And so how do I want to do this? There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And so I'll do an ordered list, li times 8. And then we have scheme. And we have opaque. And we have host. And we have path. And we have raw path. And we have force query, whatever that is. And we have raw query. And partly I was just like, what are all these things and what do they give me back? And we have fragment. And then I could use this and go and then just print out each of these fields. All right? I misspelled something. What did I mess up? This is a URL. That's what I needed. Because I'm passing in to this field this stuff. So I need to say, hey, this field, and what is that field? If that field was just a string, I would just say, give me that field. Because that field is a string. And then it's going to put a string there. But now, what is this? That is a struct. So from this field, I've got more fields. So from this field, in my struct, which has is a struct with a bunch of fields, give me these fields. And so let's see if that works. Otherwise, I'm going to go home. And I've engineered this not to work, so I could go home. So I don't know. Path is the only one that looks interesting. But I could also do this. And so even though those are URL variables, my parsing stuff parsed it. Whoa. So that's raw query. So path and raw query are interesting to see. And the rest of that stuff.
Oh, and it prints that name in there. Oh, that's pretty cool.
Because remember in the documentation,
We've got enough name.
right here, both the URL fields query parameters and the poster put form data is that, and that's what we're using. This would just be the form data, right?
Can you put that code up there again so that I can try and figure it out?
The code I just wrote.
Yeah, the one.
All right, I'll push it.